So you're thinking about Lithuania, huh? Interesting choice for a first trip.
Yeah, not the most obvious maybe. But trust me, this place has a lot to offer.
That's what we're here to find out, right? To dive deep into all things Lithuania.
We've done our homework, that's for sure. Went through a ton of travel guides, blogs, you name it.
And why all this effort? Well, for you listening, of course. To give you the inside scoop on Lithuania, to help you plan your trip, avoid the tourist traps, and really discover the essence of this amazing country.
Think of us as your personal travel buddies.
Exactly. So, Lithuania, when I first started reading about it, I was blown away by its history. I mean, who knew it was once the largest country in Europe? Back in the 15th and 16th centuries, no less.
It's true. The Grand Duchy of Lithuania was a powerhouse. It stretched from the Baltic Sea all the way to the Black Sea. Talk about an empire.
And today, it's this hidden gem, this small Baltic nation with a rich tapestry of landscapes, rolling hills, dense forests, pristine lakes, sandy beaches, and get this, sand dunes, like massive sand dunes.
Don't forget the architecture. It's a real mix of styles, from Gothic churches to Baroque palaces. Each building tells a story. Layers upon layers of history, right there in the brick and stone.
Right. So where do we even begin with this deep dive? Vilnius, I guess, right? The capital.
Vilnius is a must-see. It's a city with a soul, you know? It's got this captivating blend of old-world charm and modern vibes. You can wander through cobblestone streets lined with medieval buildings, then turn a corner and find yourself in a trendy art district buzzing with energy.
And it's big enough to have a real city feel, right?
Oh yeah, around 500,000 people call it home, so it's got that urban buzz.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still manageable. You can easily explore it on foot.
Okay, so I'm in Vilnius. Where do I go first? What's the one can't miss site?
That's easy. Gediminas Tower, no question.
This is the one up on the hill. I've seen pictures.
That's the one. And it's more than just a pretty view. It's a symbol of Lithuania's resilience, its enduring spirit.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, the legend goes, Grand Duke Gediminas had this dream, right, about an iron wolf howling on a hill. And that dream, it inspired him to found the city of Vilnius right on that very spot.
Oh, wow. So the tower, it's like the birthplace of Vilnius.
In a way, yeah. And the view from up there, it's phenomenal. You get this sweeping panorama of the entire old town. Red rooftops, church spires, winding streets. It's like a fairy tale.
You mentioned an iron wolf. Is that like a thing in Vilnius?
Yeah, the iron wolf, it's a national symbol. You'll see it everywhere. Statues, souvenirs, even on the coat of arms.
So to get to this tower, do I hike up? Or is there like an easier way?
You can definitely walk up. It's a pleasant stroll. But if you're feeling lazy, there's a funicular too. It takes you right to the top.
Nice. I'm all about saving my energy for more exploring. Okay, so Gediminas Tower, check. What else is on the must-see list? Churches, probably?
Churches, definitely. Vilnius is known for its stunning churches. Vilnius Cathedral, for example, it's this grand neoclassical masterpiece right in the heart of the city.
Neoclassical, that's the kind of like Roman-looking style with the columns and stuff.
You got it. Very symmetrical, very elegant. And then there's St. Anne's Church, which is pure Gothic beauty, all intricate details and soaring spires.
So we've got this amazing contrast, this blend of different architectural styles. What else does Vilnius offer in terms of like cultural attractions?
Well, if you're a literature buff, you can't miss Poetry Street. It's this little alleyway dedicated to Lithuanian poets. You'll find verses inscribed on the walls, creating this like open-air literary gallery.
That's really cool. And I've heard Vilnius has a vibrant street art scene too. Is that true?
Oh yeah, big time. You'll find murals and graffiti art all over the city. It adds this modern edge, this splash of color to the historic backdrop. Some of the pieces are truly impressive.
Okay, so we've covered the pretty stuff, the churches, the art, but Lithuania, it's also had a pretty tough past, right? Especially with the whole Soviet era and everything.
Absolutely. And if you want to delve into that part of Lithuania's history, you have to visit the Museum of Occupations and Freedom Fights. It's housed in the former KGB headquarters.
Oh, wow. That's intense. What's it like inside?
It's definitely a powerful experience, a bit sobering, to be honest. You get to see the prison cells where they held political prisoners, the interrogation rooms. It's a stark reminder of the oppression that Lithuanians endured under Soviet rule.
I bet. Okay, so definitely not a lighthearted museum visit, but an important one for understanding the country, right?
Exactly. And then, on a lighter note, there's the Palace of the Grand Dukes, a beautifully restored palace that takes you back to Lithuania's royal past.
Okay, so this is where the kings and queens hung out.
More like Grand Dukes and Duchesses. It's mostly a reconstruction, but they did a
Yeah.
fantastic job. It's now a museum where you can learn all about the history of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. You get to see these lavish rooms, the throne room, the ceremonial halls. It's quite impressive.
And what about this place I've heard of, Užupis? Is it like a separate town or a neighborhood?
It's a neighborhood in Vilnius, but it's like a world of its own. Think a republic of artists.
Wait, what? A republic, like their own little country.
Kind of. They have their own constitution, their own flag, even their own president. It's all very tongue-in-cheek, of course. But it's a really cool bohemian area, lots of galleries, studios, cafes.
So it's like a mini Montmartre in Paris.
Yeah, something like that. A lot of creativity, a lot of free spirits. And the constitution, it's a hoot. Like one of the articles says, everyone has the right to be happy.
I like that. That should be a universal law, right? Okay, Užupis. Noted. Anything else we need to cover in Vilnius?
Oh, one more thing. The Hill of Three Crosses. It's another great spot for panoramic views of the city.
Wait, another hill? So how is this different from Gediminas Tower?
It's a bit further out, and the view is more expansive. You can see more of the surrounding countryside. And the story behind it is quite interesting. It's said that 3 crosses were erected on this hill way back in the 17th century in memory of Franciscan monks who were martyred there.
So it's a pilgrimage site.
It is. And during the Soviet era, the crosses were destroyed a couple of times, but people kept rebuilding them. It became a symbol of resistance.
Okay, so this Hill of Three Crosses, it's like a layered symbol, both religious and historical. Wow, Vilnius is packed with things to see.
It really is, and getting around is pretty easy. They have a good public transport system, buses, trolley buses, that kind of thing.
What about the airport? If I'm flying into Lithuania, where do I land?
Vilnius International Airport is the main gateway to the country. It's well connected to major European cities.
And I think I read something about a pink soup festival. Is that a thing?
The Vilnius Pink Soup Fest. Yes, it's a real thing. Happens on May 31st. It's a celebration of Šalti Barichai, a cold beetroot soup that's, well, pink.
Sounds interesting and very Instagrammable. Pink soup, who knew? Okay, anything else before we move on from Vilnius?
Just a quick tip. If you plan to visit a lot of attractions, consider getting the Vilnius Pass. It can save you some money on entrance fees and transport.
Good to know. Now, I know we need to talk about other places besides Vilnius, but before we do, there's one more spot near the capital that caught my eye. Kernavai. What's the story there?
Oh, Kernava is a real hidden gem for history buffs. It was actually the medieval capital of Lithuania, even before Vilnius.
So even older than Vilnius. Wow. What's there to see?
It's an archaeological site, basically. You can see the remains of hill forts, burial mounds, that kind of thing. It's a fascinating glimpse into Lithuania's ancient past.
And it's an easy day trip from Vilnius.
Yeah, about 35 kilometers away. You can take a bus or join a tour.
Okay, Kernava. Added to the list. Now, let's talk about some other must-see destinations beyond the capital. Trakai, I think, should be next. That castle on the lake, right?
Trakai Island Castle. It's picture perfect. A true fairy tale castle.
It's so beautiful. I saw pictures and I was like, I need to see this in person.
You won't be disappointed. It's situated on an island in Lake Gelva, and it's just magical. The architecture, the setting, the whole atmosphere takes you back to the time of knights and grand dukes. Okay, so I get there. I take a million photos. What else is there to do in Trakai besides gawking at the castle?
Well, you can't just admire it from afar. You got to get out on the lake, rent a rowboat, kayak, or even take a boat tour. There's nothing like seeing the castle from the water.
I bet that's a pretty special experience.
Oh, and if you're feeling adventurous, take a hot air balloon ride.
Seriously, a hot air balloon over Trakai. That's bucket list material right there.
It is. Imagine drifting over the lake, the castle below you, the forest stretching out in all directions. Unforgettable.
Sold. I'm adding that to my itinerary.
Make it
Okay, so we've got Vilnius, we've got Trakai. What else?
Kaunas, Lithuania's second largest city and a cultural hub.
Kaunas. Okay, tell me about it.
Well, for a while between the 2 world wars, it was actually the temporary capital of Lithuania. So it has a lot of historical significance.
Really? Why was that? Vilnius was under Polish control at the time. So Kaunas stepped in and became the center of Lithuanian political and cultural life. And it's been having a bit of a renaissance lately. It was the European capital of culture in 2022.
So what's there to see and do in Kaunas? Is it similar to Vilnius in terms of like the vibe?
It's got its own unique vibe. It's more industrial, grittier maybe.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of charm there too.
Okay, give me some highlights.
Well, first of all, the Old Town. It's smaller than Vilnius Old Town, but it's still very picturesque. Cobblestone streets, colorful buildings, and the town hall square, which is just stunning.
Any must-see buildings in the old town?
Kaunas Castle, for one. It's a Gothic castle right on the banks of the Nemunas River. And Vytautas Church, which is this beautiful Gothic church with a really interesting history. It was actually converted into an Orthodox church during the Russian Empire, then back to a Catholic church later on. It's a survivor.
Oh, wow. That's quite a story. What else?
So don't miss the House of Perkunas.
The House of what?
Perkunas. He's the Baltic god of thunder. The building itself is this red brick Gothic masterpiece. It was originally a merchant's house, and the legend goes that it was struck by lightning, which they saw as a sign of Perkunas' power.
So it's like a house blessed by the god of thunder. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and they say if you touch the building, you'll be blessed with good luck.
All right, I'll have to test that out. Anything else worth saying in Kaunas?
If you're into art, check out the M.K. Jurlionis National Museum of Art.
Who is this Jurlionis guy?
He's a Lithuanian painter and composer, a real visionary. His paintings are very symbolic, almost mystical. They have this otherworldly quality.
Sounds intriguing, and this museum has like a big collection of his works.
It's a huge collection. And they also have this cool VR experience called Trail of Angels. It's supposed to be amazing. You basically step inside his paintings and experience them in a whole new way.
Okay, that's going on the list. VR art, why not? Anything else in Kaunas?
Well, there's the Inwoods and Avicii's Museum, but everyone just calls it the Devil's Museum.
The Devil's Museum. No, that sounds interesting.
It's this quirky museum dedicated to, well, devils.
Like actual devils.
Not actual devils, no, but devil sculptures, paintings, masks, all kinds of devil-themed art.
So it's like a tribute to the dark side.
I guess you could say that. It's definitely unique.
Okay, so we've got our history, our culture, our art, and our devils. Anything else in Kaunas, or are we moving on?
I think we can move on. But just one last thing. Kaunas has this really cool pedestrian street, Liberty Avenue. It's the heart of the city with lots of shops, restaurants, cafes. Great place to stroll and soak up the atmosphere.
Perfect. Now let's head to the coast, shall we? Klaipėda, I believe, is our next stop.
Klaipėda, the port city. Lithuania's gateway to the Baltic Sea.
What's the vibe like there? Is it a busy port town, or is there more to it?
Well, it is a busy port for sure, but it's also got this like laid-back seaside charm. You got long sandy beaches, a pretty old town, and some interesting remnants of its past as a German city.
Oh, right. It used to be part of Germany, didn't it?
Yeah, it was called Memel back then.
So it's got this like German influence to it.
Yeah, you definitely see it in the architecture. Some of the buildings have that distinct Hanseatic style, red brick, gabled roofs, that sort of thing.
Interesting. So beaches, history, German architecture. What else is there to do in Klaipėda?
Well, if you're into military history, you can visit the old World War II battery forts. They're pretty impressive, actually, and a bit eerie, too.
Okay, I'm getting a good sense of Klaipėda, but I know the real attraction here is what lies beyond the city, right? The Curonian Spit.
The Curonian Spit, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most unique natural landscapes in Europe.
What makes it so unique?
Well, imagine this. A narrow strip of land, 98 kilometers long, separating the Curonian Lagoon from the Baltic Sea. It's basically a giant sand dune covered in pine forests and dotted with charming little villages.
98 kilometers of sand dunes. That's like a sand dune highway.
Ah,
How did this even happen?
it's all thanks to the wind and the currents. They've been shaping the spit for centuries, pushing the sand around, creating these incredible dunes that can reach up to 60 meters high.
60 meters. That's taller than most buildings. Do people, like, climb them?
Oh yeah, you can definitely climb them. The views from the top are breathtaking. You can see the lagoon on one side, the Baltic Sea on the other. And the dunes themselves, they're always changing. The wind constantly shifts the sand, creating these, like, rippling patterns.
Sounds pretty surreal.
It is. It's like being on another planet. And the best part is, you can explore the whole spit by bike. There are bike paths everywhere.
Bike paths on sand dunes. That sounds like a challenge.
The paths are paved, don't worry. It's a really enjoyable way to see the spit. You can go at your own pace, stop and admire the views, maybe have a picnic lunch on the beach.
Sounds perfect. So what's the main town on the Curonian Spit?
Nida. It's the largest town and the most popular with tourists.
Tell me about it. What makes Nida special?
Well, for one, the atmosphere. It's very laid back, very charming. The houses are all painted in bright colors, and there's this lovely promenade that runs along the lagoon.
I can picture it like a little fishing village turned into a resort town.
Yeah, something like that, but it's still very authentic. And of course, there are the dunes. The Parnidis Dune is right near Nida, and it's the highest drifting dune in Europe.
So it's like the king of the dunes. I'm guessing there are amazing views from up there.
Oh yeah, spectacular views. And there's a cool cognitive trail that leads you to the top. It's got these informational panels along the way that tell you all about the formation of the dunes and the unique ecosystem of the spit.
Educational and scenic. Perfect combo. What else is there to do in Nita?
You can visit the Nita Fisherman's Ethnographic Homestead. It's a museum that showcases the traditional way of life on the Curonian Spit.
Okay, so like how the fishermen used to live and work.
Exactly. It's a fascinating glimpse into the past. And then there's the Thomas Mann Museum. Thomas Mann, the famous German writer, had a summer house in Nita.
I've heard of him. He wrote Death in Venice, right? So his summer house is now a museum.
It is. You can see his study, his library, and there's this amazing view from the house that he called the Italian view.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Literary history and stunning views, all in one. Anything else in Nita worth checking out?
Oh, definitely. Nita Lighthouse. It's right in the center of town, and it's still in operation. You can climb to the top for another fantastic panorama.
I'm sensing a theme here. Lots of amazing views on the Curonian Spit. Okay, anything else about Nita before we move on?
Just a couple of things. First, be sure to try the smoked fish. It's a local specialty.
Smoked fish? I'm in.
And second, if you're looking for souvenirs, amber is a popular choice. You can find it everywhere in Nita.
Amber, like the fossilized tree resin?
That's the one. The Baltic region is famous for its amber.
All right, noted. Now, what about other places on the Curonian Spit besides Nita? Is it worth venturing further afield?
Oh, absolutely. There's Jodkranta, which is known for its Hill of Witches. It's this collection of wooden sculptures depicting characters from Lithuanian folklore and mythology.
Witches, huh? Sounds spooky.
It's not actually spooky, it's more whimsical than anything, and the sculptures are quite impressive.
Okay, so Jude Krant for witches. Anything else?
There's the Naglii Nature Reserve, also called the Gray Dunes or Dead Dunes. It's a very unique landscape. These dunes, they were once covered in vegetation, but then the sand just took over.
So it's like a graveyard of trees.
Kind of, yeah. It's a bit eerie, but it's also very beautiful.
Okay, so we've got our charming towns, our giant sand dunes, our witches, and our dead trees. Sounds like the Curonian Spit has it all.
It really does. And it's easy to get to. You just take a ferry from Klaipeda.
A ferry. Do I need to book in advance or can I just show up?
It's best to book in advance, especially during peak season. And keep in mind, there's an entrance fee to the Curonian Spit National Park.
Okay, good to know. Now, let's head back inland for a bit. There's one more place I really want to talk about. The Hill of Crosses.
The Hill of Crosses, a truly remarkable place. A pilgrimage site, a symbol of faith, a testament to Lithuania's enduring spirit.
I've read about it, but it's hard to grasp the scale of it, right? Just how many crosses are we talking about?
Hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions. They're everywhere, covering the entire hill. Big crosses, small crosses, wooden crosses, metal crosses. It's a sight to behold.
It's more than just a visual spectacle, though, right? There's a deep meaning behind it.
Oh yeah, it's steeped in history and symbolism. It started in the 19th century, during the uprisings against the Russian Tsar. People started placing crosses on the hill as a form of protest, as a way to commemorate those who had died.
So it's a memorial, a place of remembrance.
It is. And then, during the Soviet era, the crosses were destroyed several times. The Soviets saw them as a threat, as a symbol of Lithuanian nationalism.
But they kept coming back?
People kept rebuilding them, secretly, at night. It became this act of defiance, this symbol of hope. And in 1993, Pope John Paul II visited the Hill of Crosses, which really cemented its status as a global pilgrimage site.
Wow, what a story. So how do I get there?
It's about a 2.5-hour drive from Vilnius. You can also take a bus from the city of Ulei, which is closer.
Okay, so the Hill of Crosses, definitely a must-see. Now, I know we're running out of time, but I want to squeeze in a couple more destinations. Druskin-Inkai, I think, is next.
Druskin-Inkai, a spa town in southern Lithuania.
So, like, a place to relax and rejuvenate.
Exactly. It's known for its mineral springs and mud baths. People have been coming here for centuries to take the waters and enjoy the healing properties of the local mud.
Sounds like a good way to unwind after all that sightseeing. What else is there to do in Druskin-Inkai besides soaking in mud?
Well, it's surrounded by forests and lakes, so there are plenty of opportunities for hiking, biking, boating, and there's an indoor water park, an adventure park, even skiing arena.
Skiing in Lithuania. Didn't see that coming. Okay, so Druskin-Inkai is for nature lovers, spa enthusiasts, and apparently skiers, too.
And for something a little different, there's a musical fountain. They have these water shows set to music and lights. It's quite popular.
Musical fountains, always a crowd pleaser. Okay, last up. Enichakshe. What's the story there?
Enikorčiai is another resort town, known for its beautiful nature and its unique attractions.
Okay, give me the highlights.
Well, the main attraction is the treetop walking path. It's this elevated walkway that takes you through the forest canopy. You get this amazing bird's eye view of the surrounding landscape.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And probably not for anyone with a fear of heights.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And then there's the Horse Museum. Lithuania has a long tradition of horsemanship, and this museum showcases that history.
Horses, huh? I'm not really a horse person, but I bet it's interesting.
It is. And finally, there's the Puntuka stone, just this massive boulder, one of the largest in Lithuania. And it has these carvings on it depicting Lithuanian aviators.
Okay, so we've gone from churches and castles to witches and boulders. Lithuania is a pretty diverse country.
It really is. And we've only just scratched the surface.
Right. So much more to explore. But before we wrap up, let's give our listeners some practical tips for planning their trip. First things first, transportation. What's the best way to get around Lithuania?
Renting a car gives you the most flexibility, especially if you want to explore the countryside and the smaller towns. But the public transportation system is pretty good too. There are buses and trains that connect most major cities.
And what about money? What currency do they use in Lithuania?
The euro.
Easy enough. Any other practical tips or things to keep in mind?
Well, if you're planning to buy alcohol, be aware that they have some strict regulations. The legal drinking age is 20, and there are certain hours when you can't buy alcohol.
Good to know. And what about the best time to visit? When's the weather nicest?
For warm weather, summer is the best time to go. But the shoulder seasons, spring and autumn, are also pretty nice. Just be prepared for rain. It can rain any time of year in Lithuania.
Rain or shine, it sounds like Lithuania has a lot to offer. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
Just go for it. Lithuania is a hidden gem waiting to be discovered. The people are friendly, the food is delicious, the nature is stunning, and the history is fascinating. You won't be disappointed.
Okay, I'm convinced. Lithuania, here I come.
Yep.
And to all our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to start planning your own Lithuanian adventure.
Until next time.
So, as you're planning your trip, here's something to ponder. Think about how Lithuania has managed to preserve its unique identity, its culture, its language, despite being sandwiched between these powerful empires throughout its history. It's a story of resilience, of rebirth, of clinging to what makes them, well, them. And that spirit, it's woven into the fabric of the country. You'll see it in the art, hear it in the music, taste it in the food. It's what makes Lithuania so special.
That's a great point to end on.
Until next time.